So, how many of you guys like a bargain? And y'all like a bargain? Kabir, your hand up went too fast. Your hand up went way too fast. I love a good bargain. You guys like thrifting? Your generation likes thrifting, right? You guys go to, what is it, Talise, Value Village, right? What? National Thrift, all those kinds of things. Trying to find some good, swag out there for pennies on the dollar, which I respect. I love a good deal. Absolutely love a good deal. In fact, some of my best deals have been the little red MR2 card that I have out there. That's a thrift deal that I really got. But I've got some comics from Value Village that I was able to pick up for like $1 that are now worth like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. I love a good deal. I'm always shopping on Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji. Those are my favorite places to shop. I've built my entire business on Facebook Marketplace. Are you showing me your shirt that you bought thrifting? Oh, you were just trying to show me your shirt. Are you just trying to prove that you dress better than me now? I have no idea. You spent $300. Oh my goodness, you've been outed, my friend. $300. Okay, we'll talk about this after. But I love a good deal, and hopefully you guys love good deals too, and you like hunting down those deals. When garage sales were a thing, I love to go to those things on Saturdays. I don't think that they really exist anymore. I haven't seen a garage sale. Anyone seen one recently? You've seen them? Okay, I didn't know that they were still around or kicking because of COVID, but I definitely like to get a good deal. And we're kind of always in this place like, how can I get the most while paying the least? Fair? Like everyone would love to get the most without paying the least, right? And how do I sacrifice a little to get the good stuff? But the truth is that doesn't always work in the material world. A lot of times we search for bargains in our spiritual lives. We try to get the most without giving up the least. We want the most, and we just don't want to give up as much. We don't want to make many sacrifices. What do you mean, John? We want God to bless us. We want God to take care of us. But we don't really want to do the things He asks of us. We don't really want to make the sacrifices that we have to make. We don't want to change our behavior. We don't want to connect with Him. We don't want to talk to people. We want to be able to say, well, God, bless me. Give me everything I absolutely need, but I'm still going to do my own thing. I'm still going to talk to whoever I want to talk to. I'm still going to go to the things that I want to go to. I'm just going to live my life the way I want to live. But God, I want it all. I want you to bless me. I want you to take care of me. I want you to secure my future. I don't want to struggle. I don't want to have anything going wrong for my life. Any of y'all had those conversations with God? Or is it just me? Because I've had all those conversations with God, saying I want it all, but I just don't want to change anything that I'm doing. I don't want to change my life. I like what I do, but I want to have all the things that I need to get to heaven and all that stuff. Many times we, want to be able to say yeah, I want to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. But we don't want to put the boundaries in our lives in order to actually have a boyfriend or girlfriend. Which is why, statistically speaking, none of your high school relationships ever make it out of the starting gate. If you start in grade 9, the chance of you surviving past grade 12, chance of you making it through university, college, and getting married is very, very, very low. Very low, statistically. You can look up the math. Because the reason why it doesn't work is because most times we want it all without making the sacrifices to want it all. We don't want to make the sacrifices that we need to make for the other person. We don't want to change the things that we need to change for our boyfriend or girlfriend. We just want to be able to say, I got a boo. I can put it up on my Insta. I can take the nice pictures with the heart emoji on it. Right? I can celebrate 6-week anniversary. Is that a thing? Right? I don't know. Is that a thing? Because I didn't celebrate them, but it might be. Right? So we all want things, but we just don't want to be able to make the sacrifices to do those things. And there are times in our Christian lives we say, well, what's the least I need to be able to do to receive the good stuff from God? To get to heaven, to have, what it takes to live a good life. What's the least I got to do to get there? And it's really not a new attitude. This attitude's been around for 2,000 plus years, believe it or not. You know how I know that? Because it's right in the Bible. These are the people that Jesus walked with and talked with and connected with. And so, right off the bat, where we see Jesus walking away and actually walking towards Jerusalem. We see this account in the book of Luke, and I'm going to read it for you. It'll pop up on the screen. And we see Jesus walking away to actually do the thing that God has called him to do. So he's actually walking to Jerusalem. He's walking to the place where he's going to be sacrificed for you and me. So he already knows his assignment. He knows his calling. He knows what he's supposed to do. He's actually walking into his destiny that God the Father called him to. And while he's doing that, we see this little passage, this little account with people. A bunch of people start chasing after him, and a bunch of people start coming around Jesus. And they have no idea what Jesus is doing here. They have no idea where he's going, what he's about to do. They only knew Jesus as a miracle worker, a healer, a teacher, a preacher, somebody who could maybe lead them out of oppression from the Roman Empire. So this is a cool guy that they're like, yo, man, you could free us from all these things that we are oppressed by. We're oppressed by this government that comes from another country and telling us what we have to do. And you're telling all these cool things, doing all these cool things in our land, so maybe you can free us. So a lot of people were really riling around Jesus for a lot of these reasons. And they had no idea what Jesus was even trying to do or what he was set out to do. And so as they're following him in numbers, in large crowds, it says, we see this account that Jesus has with all these people. And he starts to thin the crowd. And people start to become less and less in following. And this is where I want to kind of talk about in camp on what it means to be all in. So let me read it for you. I'm going to read it from my notes, but it's up there on the screens for you. So in Luke chapter 14, verses 25 to 35, it says, large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, if anyone comes to me and does not hate their mother or father, wife, their children, their brothers or sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple, or cannot be somebody that can follow me. And whoever does not carry their own cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't you first sit down and consider whether he's able with 10,000 men to oppose one coming against him with 20,000? If he's not able, will he send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and ask for terms of peace? In the same way, those who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is fit neither for the soil nor for the manure pile. It is thrown out. And whoever has ears to hear, let them hear. So, Jesus said all this stuff. Okay? He was saying it to these crowds of people that were following him, and he was just kind of making points after points after points with them. And part of the reason why he was saying it, because it seems really strange why Jesus would do this. At least one of the very first things he tells people is that they have to, if anyone comes to me and does not hate their father or mother, wife or children, brothers or sister, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. That's a really, really harsh thing to say. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, if Jesus is telling me I got to love people, but then he turns around and tells me I got to hate people, that seems like a really, really weird thing to say, right? Anyone else would agree with that? Or is it just me? Because I don't ever want to live my life like a sheep, just hearing what somebody says and just kind of like going with it. I want to know what it means. I want to know why it was said and actually do the work to understand what that means, why Jesus even said it. So many times we read things like this and we're just like, I don't know if I want to follow this Jesus guy. He tells me you got to hate everybody. Like, why would I ever want to follow somebody like this? But one of the things about the Bible is that the Bible is actually written in a completely different language. So in the Old Testament, it's written in Hebrew. In the New Testament, it's in Greek. And many times, just like any language, or if you speak, how many of y'all speak multiple languages? So a lot of you speak multiple languages. More than 2? More than 3? Dang. Matej, what do you speak? I know you speak Romanian and English. What else do you speak? Barely speak Spanish. So you don't speak Spanish. Get out of here. Saying "Cómo estás" is not speaking Spanish, okay? All right? So, and if you speak multiple languages, you know that sometimes certain words translate really differently, right? And certain phrasing translates differently. For example, Muhammad, you must be out your mind. I mean, we all kind of know what that means based in the English language. But if I were to, Amir, if you were to directly translate that in Farsi and tell somebody that they were out of their mind, they probably would think that you are physically out of your mind, right? Without ever having to figure out what the context of a saying is. Or it's raining cats and dogs. Anyone ever heard that one? You know, the old people love to say that one, right? So we all have sayings that we say that kind of have a weird definition, a loose definition. And sometimes when you literally translate things, it can turn into a different meaning, a different word. And so in the Bible here, in the history of the original language, to hate something was really to give less priority to something. So in Matthew chapter 10, verse 37, it says, anyone who loves his father or mother more than me, this is Jesus saying this, is not worthy of me. And anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. So when Jesus says that we should hate those who are closest to us in relationship, he's really saying that if you love them more than me, or if they're more important than me in your life, then you really can't follow after me. You can't be a Christ follower. You can't really run after the things that I have for you. And really comes down to, that means we got to have more of a desire for Jesus than our boyfriends and girlfriends, than our friends, than our families, than our neighbors, whatever. Because the truth is, if we're willing to have more relationship with Jesus, that's what he's asking for us, it means that we get to be more like him. We get to be closer to him. We get to have his character, his love, his forgiveness, his grace, his joy, his understanding. Because I don't know about you, anyone else know anybody perfect that's never sinned? Anybody? No, anybody else? Nobody. Nobody knows anybody that's never made a mistake ever. No, Jesus, thank you. So he's the only one who's never made a mistake and never sinned, which is why he could die for us and pay the price for us. Which means, to me, I want to be like that guy. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be anything less than that guy. I never want to be able to not live my life in the way that I could possibly live. I don't ever want to live below the mark. I want to live at the place that Jesus calls me to. So when Jesus says to me that I gotta hate my mom and dad, it's not saying I gotta hate them and not like them. I gotta make him more of a priority than my mom and dad. I gotta make Jesus more of a priority than Abby, who's my wife. I gotta make him more of a priority than my kids, Alea and Kendrick. And the truth is, he is 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, more of a priority than Abby or my kids. And in turn, Abby has Jesus more of a priority than me. But John, why would Jesus ever ask you to do that? That makes no sense. It makes all the sense. Because again, who's perfect? Who's sinless? Who does it right every single time? Who's the best model, the best role model we could ever follow? Who do you want to be most like? And to me, Jesus is the only one. Jesus is the only one that makes sense to me, which means if I chase after him, I can be the best husband to Abby. I can be the best dad to Alea and Kendrick. I can be the best friend that I am to my friends. I can have grace for them. I can love them. I can care for them. I can encourage them. That's why I can do a multitude of things for you guys and ask nothing in return from you. Because the truth is, I need nothing from you. Not because I don't value or love you, but my worth, my identity is not built in what you do for me. It's all built in my relationship with Jesus because he does everything for me. He's done everything humanly possible for me. He's died for me. He's loved me. He's given me life. He's given me purpose. He calls me every single day up to the highest standard possible that I could live. So I lack nothing when I put Jesus first. I lack nothing when he is my ultimate priority. I can crease my Jordans and not care about a thing about what any of y'all say because the Jordans ain't my priority. Jesus is my priority. What I do for him matters more than what you think about my creased Jordans. It's really quiet. See, Jesus says if we do not love him more than life itself, we cannot be his disciple. We can't follow after him. We can't be a Christ follower. We start to become imitations, copies, people that want to just get the bargain. See, and another image Jesus uses to thin out the crowd is the image of the cross. He says in Luke 14, verse 27, and anyone who does not carry his or her own cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. See, for people in the Bible, in Bible times, hear me out, in Bible times, The cross represented death. It represented punishment for your sins, for the mistakes you made. So some of y'all make some stupid mistakes, and for most part, y'all get what? Sent to your room, right? Unless you're a person of color like me who got beat by my parents, okay? But for most of y'all, some of y'all got sent to your room, right? Because there was always a punishment for something that you did wrong. And in Bible times, for anybody who committed crimes against the government or against other people, the cross is what they had to endure. They were hung on the cross. They were put on the cross. That was their punishment. In fact, crosses would align the streets of Jerusalem as a reminder, like, yo, don't make that mistake. Don't be stupid. Don't, steal from somebody. Don't sleep with that person's wife. Don't be doing none of the foolish things. Right? So the cross was a representation of death, but it was a representation of crimes that people were committing, sin that people were committing. But many times we misunderstand that phrase of carrying our cross. We tend to think that, when we experience some bad things, right, or if we have something physically wrong with us, or we got a weird person that we got to deal with, or somebody that's just in like our family that we just have to deal with. It's like, oh, this is my cross to bear. Anyone ever heard that saying before? Said that saying before? Oh, I got to bear this cross and walk with it. But that's really not what this is even talking. That's not even what Jesus is referring to. He's not talking about the cross that way. He's speaking of a cross as something that we have to choose. We have to pick up. Because we have to be able to say, like, this thing that I got in my heart, I got to put it to death. Because that's what the cross represents. So this thing in my life, if I want to be a follower of Jesus, I have to recognize that, hey, I got this area in my life that's holding me back from being all in with Jesus. And I got to pick up my cross. I got to pick up that thing that's in my life that's really not working out for me. And I got to put that thing to death. I got to get it out of my life, and it's got to be gone for good. So it's a choice that we have to make to put things to death. And Paul, in Colossians chapter 3, verse 5, gives us clarity, because you're just like, well, John, what the heck are you talking about? What do we got to put to death? What things in my life I got to put to death? Lots of things, actually. I'm glad you asked that question. Here's what Paul wrote. He says, put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature. Sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, the wrath of God is coming. You used to walk in these ways in the life you once lived, but now you must rid yourself of all such things. Anger, rage, malice, slander. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on your new self in being renewed by the knowledge of Jesus. See, Paul is talking about a multitude of things that holds us back. Nothing about the way we talk to people sometimes is Jesus at all. So there's something that even I had to put to death this weekend. Or this last weekend. So how many of y'all were at the carnival on Friday? Some of y'all helped out. I appreciate a lot of y'all helping out, and I appreciate some of y'all spending money and helping out that way. But on Saturday, I had to return all that stuff that was in the parking lot, right? Remember that big joust thing, the dunk tank, all that stuff had to get out of here at some point. So the company's got to come pick it up. So they said to me on Friday, like, listen, we'll come on Saturday, just leave it where it is. If you can take some of the stuff into the gym, keep it safe so that it doesn't get stolen, then we'll be good. And I said, no problem. I'll do that for you, and all good. Saturday rolls around, 5 o'clock rolls around, and they still haven't come and picked up any of this stuff. And I'm looking outside, and I'm like, this stuff needs to go because we need our parking lot for Sunday. And it's all sitting in the middle of the parking lot. And I'm waiting around for them to come pick it up because I had to let them into the building to let them pick up their stuff. So finally, I text them, and I'm like, yo, where you at? And they're like, oh, we're busy, blah, blah, blah. But also, it's raining now, so, we're going to come pick it up tomorrow. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're going to come pick it up today. Not tomorrow, today, because I had a contract with you. That's what's happening. So then they called me and started yelling at me. And John, being the John that he is, does not like when a person yells at him. So a warning to any of you, if you try to come yelling at me, it will not turn out pleasant in any way. So I started yelling back at them. And I got angry because I'm looking at a contract saying, I paid you something, you need to hold your end of it up, I need you to come get your stuff out of here. And in my anger, I said things that I didn't mean. Because I wasn't operating all in with Jesus, because I was living angry in that moment. So when they were like, listen, it's raining, we just can't come get it. And I said, fine, I'm going to move all your stuff to the street, and if it gets stolen, I don't care. because he needs to leave my parking lot. And instead of being gracious and understanding in that moment, I operated out of anger and I said things that, truthfully, I regret, which required me having to call them back and apologizing. But being all in means that I have to pick up my cross and I got to put the things to death. So when I make a mistake and I fumble it, I got to be able to say, like, I got to own that. And I got to be willing to own it and say, like, that was not right. That was not the right way to do it. And I have to call them back and say, listen, I'm sorry I got mad at you. I'm sorry I yelled. I'm sorry I spoke to you poorly. You just have to understand my perspective. And they're like, yeah, whatever, we don't care. And at the end of the day, I still had to apologize to them. Even though on a lot of levels I was right on what I needed, but I operated the wrong way. I operated out of anger and frustration. So the truth is, for me to be all in with Jesus requires that I got to pick up my cross. And I got to be willing to put my things to death that I struggle with. And one of the things that I struggle with is anger. Things not going my way and getting angry. And I got to pick that thing up all the time and put it to death every time if I want to be all in with Jesus. And then to drive the point even further, Jesus kind of gives us word pictures in 3 different ways. So he talks about first the tower builder. And he talks about a guy who wants to build a tower. And in the Bible times, a tower represented security and comfort. That's what it represented when somebody built a tower. It's something that, but it's true, it's something that we all want. Anybody want security and comfort? Okay, thank you. The rest of your friends apparently don't care about security and comfort, okay? So we all want, on some level, some security and comfort. But the truth is, sometimes, just like this guy, we start building the foundation, we start the process of wanting to build the security and comfort. And then when it gets hard and when it gets difficult, like this guy who didn't count the cost and didn't understand what it was required of him, he has to stop building because he ran out of money and he couldn't build the rest of that tower. And the truth is, in the same way, we want security and comfort, we want the Christian life until we encounter a challenge or a problem. So we'll believe Jesus, we'll say all the right things when everything's going great. Until the challenge happens, until something unexplainable that challenges us spiritually happens. And then we have to decide, are we willing to pay the cost? Are we willing to give in and actually pay the cost, just like this tower builder? You know, for maybe somebody hurt you too deeply. And the Bible asks you, Christ asks you, Jesus asks you all in, you got to forgive them. Are you willing to pay the cost? But John, I can't forgive that person. Yo, they said all this rude stuff about me behind my back to all my friends. They called me a hoe. They called me this. They called me that. And now everybody knows all this stuff. And this person said, how could I ever forgive them for betraying me like that? But Jesus calls us to forgive. Are you willing to pay the cost? Are you willing to pay that? Are you willing to keep building the tower of comfort and security? You know, sometimes maybe we make a mistake and we say the wrong thing. But we don't want to apologize. We don't want to ask and come in and say, hey, I'm sorry for saying that. I'm sorry for doing that. Can you forgive me? Because we have too much pride in us to say, like, I shouldn't have to do that. That person should come in and ask for my forgiveness. Are we willing to pay the cost? So many times we quit. But Jesus points to us very clearly that when we quit, people notice. People notice. Aren't you supposed to be a Christian? Like, you're getting all bitter and angry at me. Like, aren't you supposed to be, like, love people? How many times, any of you who are Christ followers, any of y'all heard that before? I hear that one on the daily from my parents. When I fight with them, they're like, aren't you supposed to be some pastor? And then I have to pull back, and I got to work for it. You see, going to church, coming to Friday nights, that ain't going to build your comfort and security. I promise you that. It'll never build it. Just coming. You got to decide that you're willing to follow Jesus and go all in with him and be willing to pay the price. Because the price that you're willing to pay sets you up, makes you secure, unlocks your potential, and lets you move forward and doesn't let your pain hold you back. See, the problem a lot of times is you guys love, and I said this on Sunday, but y'all love hiding behind mental health, man. I need to call that out. Mental health is a really great thing to talk about, but a lot of y'all love hiding behind the label of it. Oh, I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, like that's your name or something. Like, no, you're not depressed. Your definition is not depressed. You may struggle with it. But are you willing to pay the price to get comfort and security? You see, I know I get to talk about anxiety and depression. I know some of y'all are like, John, you have no business talking about it. I get to talk about it. Because if you know my life story, I get to talk about it. I really do. Because I've experienced some things that most people in this lifetime will never experience. And I have every reason, every ability to say I will never forgive people, ever. I have every right to say that. Every right. Every counselor has told me I have every right to say that. But the truth is, does that bring me comfort and security? Being mad at the world. Holding on to hurt and pain like it's some sort of badge and honor that somebody hurt me so bad and I'm this victim. Now everybody's got to look at me and feel sorry for me. So for me, I flip the script. A lot of guys don't like talking about it. So I will. I'll talk about it. I'll talk about what things that were done to me that guys just don't want to talk about sometimes because it messes with their manhood or their ability to be men. But the truth is, when I was robbed of my identity, when I was robbed of every ounce of innocence when I was a kid, I had to decide if I was going to live with the pain and let the pain identify me, or if I was going to let it go and walk in comforts and security like Jesus has promised that I can walk in. So I had a choice to make. Either I'm willing to pay the price, or I can just say I'm anxious and depressed because a bunch of people hurt me in my past and I can't get past it. So instead, I decided I was going to build my tower and pay the price. I was going to go for my comfort and security that's only found in Jesus. I was going to let him do all the damage control in my life, let him take every ounce of pain and suffering that I had to endure, and let him build healing. So that even if I ever had to see the faces of the people that did the most awful, vile things to me, I can look at them and say, I forgive you. I bless you. I'm praying for you. And I'd like to tell you that's easy, but it's not. It required a sacrifice. It required me going all in. It required me going to battle. It required me not making excuses and letting my pain define me. The only definition I have is Jesus. That's it. It's my only qualifying mark I have on my life. I'm either in or I'm out. So I've allowed Jesus to come in and do all the damage control he can handle if I'm willing to just let him have it and get out of his way. So that's how I build my tower of comfort and security in my life. That's how I'm free to talk about my pain and struggle, because they don't define me anymore. The pain and struggle have no hold on me. The people who have hurt me have zero hold on me. Zero. I could look at them right now and give them a hug. That's how much nothing that there's being held on there. That's how much damage control Jesus has done in my life, because I'm willing to pay the price and go all in. The next one, the next kind of picture that God gives us, first is a tower builder. The second one is a king at war. So he talks about two armies at war with each other, and one king having an army of 10,000, another having an army of 20. And he says, wouldn't it be easier for an army of 10,000 to offer up a delegation that can create a level of peace? If you've ever seen a war movie, you always know when two armies are there, they always send a little dude on a horse with some few people coming in, riding in, and just be like, okay, what can we do to make this work so we don't have to fight, right? So the Philistines with Goliath, they just said, look, we'll send Goliath out. If you can just find one dude to fight him, then we can avoid this. So many times, if you're the smaller army, you're going to want to try and find a way to find peace, because the truth is you don't have the numbers to win. But many times we are like that small army, and instead of just being willing with God, who's got the bigger army, to kind of find a way to find peace and allow him and surrender to him, we want to go to war with him. We want to take our little army, we want to fight with him. We want to be like, nah, I got my way. I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to do it your way. No, I want to party on Friday night and Saturday. I'm going to do it my way. No, I want to smoke a little weed and drink a little whatever. I'm going to do it my way. I don't want to do it your way, God. I want to try it all and do it my way, instead of doing it your way. And we fight God. And we say, I'm never going to confess. I'm never going to say I'm sorry. I'll never ask for forgiveness. And the truth is, to fight God is just stupid, because it always costs us something. It costs us frustration, restlessness, emptiness, anxiety, depression, all these labels that we start to put on ourselves when we don't want to do God's will, we don't want to surrender to his plan, to his army, so to speak. That's where I was when I was 17, 18 years old. I didn't want to surrender to God's plan. I knew who God was. I believed in him. I just didn't want to follow him. So when I came to university, I said, I got to find a way to make money to pay for school. I was a pretty good driver. Let me try the racing thing out a little bit. Let me see if I can win some money. Fast and the Furious was huge at the time, right? So racing culture was huge. So I'm like, let me try. And some of you heard me talk about that. But the truth is, there's a lot of people who are my friends who I was bragging about racing and making all this money who are like, John, do you really think that that's smart? Like, what if you get into an accident? What if you crash? Like, what if you die? Like, what if you get pulled over, right? Going insane speed limits. Like, what if you kill somebody? And I'm like, I don't care. Racing's all I wanted to do because it's the only way I felt I was going to make money. And I was at war with God on this. And I'd love to tell you that it was exciting and exhilarating, but it was not. You know why? Because I was always stressed, always. I was stressed in every race because any race could be my last. I could have lost all my money. Everything I put on the line, I could lose if I don't win. So in every race, I was stressed and I had to win. Every dollar I made had to go to school and to pay for school. So I was stressed. I was doing the racing not for fun. I was doing the racing to live and survive. Until it cost me everything. Until I crashed and almost cost me my life. Definitely costed me my car. But I wrapped it around a pole, and that's the end of my racing career. So I lost everything. But to fight God is just stupid. It's foolish. The wise thing to do, honestly, is to surrender and negotiate peace with him, so to speak. Because when we surrender to his plan, when we're willing to, let's say, God, I'm gonna come your way, I'm gonna give my attitude, I'm gonna give my selfishness and my pride, all this stuff unto you. Well, God has a funny way of starting to allow his 20,000 add to your 10,000. Now you're an army of 30,000. Because you're stronger. So I had to find a way that instead of fighting with God on these things, I had to surrender to him and let him be in control of my life. And many of y'all be holding on to some things and trusting some things that honestly ain't working for you. I'm 31, 32. I've been around the block. I'm telling you, no amount of weed, no amount of drinking, no amount of partying, no amount of sex, no amount of none of that is ever going to fulfill you. It's ever going to satisfy. It's ever going to be a status symbol that you can hold up and have some sort of badge of honor for. None of it matters in the grand scheme of anything. Right now, a lot of you think it matters. I'm telling you, it does not matter. You don't believe me? Ask anybody over the age of 25. They'll tell you. Straight up, they'll tell you. None of it matters. And honestly, none of it satisfies. All it does is it costs you more in your life. And all you do is find different ways to identify with your pain. Well, I'm this, or I am insecure, or I am anxious, or I am depressed, or I am whatever. We find now identity markers to justify everything that we need to do. But are you all in? Or are you out? Do you want safety and security and comfort? Or are you out? The last thing that Jesus says, and as Jesus is saying these things, man, he's thinning the crowd, people leaving, because they don't like what he's got to say. The last thing, very last thing he says is be salt. And this is the final picture that he gives us. Well, what is salt? I mean, very obvious, it's salt. But in Bible time, salt was very important. It did a lot of things. It preserved food. Y'all are blessed. Y'all got fridges that you can put your food in and it can be good for you for the next day. But 2,000 years ago, they ain't got no fridges. So if they had food, what they got to do? They got to find a way to preserve it. And that's what salt did. Salt preserved the food. So it was effective in that. Obviously, it added taste to the food, right? Now, I live with some white people, and salt and pepper seem to be the only measure of ingredients and spice that they're willing to use. But, I'm trying to add some culture to it, other than just salt and pepper. But salt is an ingredient. It's something that we use to flavor our food. But over time, if you don't use salt the right way, it loses its saltiness. It loses its effectiveness, its ability to flavor food, its ability to preserve food. And salt is good for nothing after that. It's not even good to be put on the ground and be trampled upon, because it's brittle, it breaks. It's not even good to be put, as Jesus said, in the manure pile. And if you don't know what manure is, just like poop that is used to grow trees. It's not even good for that. Salt that loses its effectiveness is literally garbage. It's just something that we throw out. And when we aren't willing to surrender our lives and be all in, at some point we start to lose our effectiveness. At some point, the passions, the ideas, that book you want to write, that instrument you want to play, that thing you want to do, all those things that are inside of you that's been there and it's a passion, that starts to fade away eventually. Because just like salt that's not used right, it loses its effectiveness. So we start to be demotivated. We start to feel devalued. And guess what? Then eventually you start to say, I got no purpose. So why am I here? Why does my life matter? But every single one of you matters. Every single one of you has purpose. Every single one of you has things inside of you that's unique to you. You alone. Because you were made with purpose. You were made on point. You were made with intention. But it's up to you to decide, am I going to be willingly serving Jesus, a God who made me, God who created me? Am I going to be all in to be secure, comfortable? Or am I just going to be like salt that loses its saltiness and be okay riding the wave just like everybody else? And be insecure, defined by my Instagram followers, defined by the amount of people that I can talk to on Snapchat or the nudes I send to them, and find my value in that. See, that's the problem with today's society. That's the problem with today's culture. They're too obsessed with this. How do I know that? Because I'm already looking around seeing it right now in this moment. Too obsessed with this. Too obsessed with what's out there to define my life, to define my worth, to define my value. The problem is that you got to be willing to let that go, to define your value and identity. You got to be willing to say, who am I as a human being? Who am I as a purpose? And if I never saw the likes, the comments, the follow account, the people I snap, the people who say the really beautiful things and nice things to me to encourage me, is my identity built on those things? Or is my identity built on who Jesus has made me to be? Because every single one of you is beautiful. I could be blue in the face telling you that, but none of you believe me because you don't believe it yourself. You don't believe that about yourself. You're unwilling to believe it because you don't trust the designer who made you. My challenge for you is, are you all in on the designer who made you, on Jesus who created you, on a God who gave you purpose? Because if you're willing to be all in on Him, He starts to show you who you are. He starts to develop a plan inside of you. Every single one of you has purpose. Man, I don't know how much more, because I say that every Friday. Because I'm desperate for all of you to figure it out and discover it for yourself. Because if you can see it, you can do way more than you're doing right now. You can reach more people. You can touch more lives. You can make a difference. Instead of about talking about it and sharing it on your social, it frustrates the crap out of me when all y'all are willing to do is just share it on your stories like that's going to make a difference. What are you actually doing to make a difference? Y'all care about making a change in this world? You want to see change in this world? The only one that can make a change in this world is Jesus. That's the only way we're going to do it, because He has the standard for perfection and excellence, from right from wrong. None of us know the right from wrong. Only He does. So if we're willing to go His way, then He starts to show us and carve out the path that we can actually make real, tangible difference in people's lives, in the communities around us. I've been all in Canada for multicultural from the jump, from the start, before it was cool and relevant. I was all in on that. Because I saw Toronto, I saw Canada. That's why I always wear Toronto merch all the time. Because I saw it as a beautiful place where people from all over the world can come together. And with the abundance of difference that exists out here, the one common denominator that can unite us is Jesus. Because He made us, He created us, He made us all different, but He can unite us and put us together like a beautiful puzzle with all our differences. That's why I love Toronto. That's why I'm all in on seeing Jesus coming back into the city. Because everything about us that makes us different, God said, I made you different so that as you come together in the community under my banner, you guys are going to make something beautiful happen. It's what heaven will look like. And I would hate for you guys to miss out on that. But are you all in or not? That's up to you. I can't live your all in life for you. I want to, but I can't. I can only live my life for me. So my challenge to you is, are you willing to be all in? Because you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to say like, oh my gosh, I suck. Jesus is saying, let me take what you think sucks and let me make it beautiful, perfect for you, if you're willing to let me do it. So, as these guys lead us and we take a time to reflect a little bit, it doesn't matter where you're at in the journey. You could be brand new, you could be, I don't know about Jesus, or you could be a few years in the journey, or a decade, or whatever into the journey, and you've trusted Jesus along the way. But the question is, are you all in? Are you sold out on who Jesus is? See, I spend most of my days, my weeks going through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John because I'm all in on knowing who Jesus is. I want to know more about him. I want to live like him. I want to emulate him. And as I spend time with him, he helps me refine areas of my life that I need to correct and I need to work. And are you all in? Because it's the most beautiful journey that I know I've ever been on. More beautiful than, I know this is going to sound like heresy, but more beautiful than my wife and kids is my journey with Jesus. And I'm not saying that to like be cool or whatever, relevant. It's really the truth that I believe. Because when I'm with Jesus, when I'm all in with him, I'm the best I can be for my family. I'm the best that I can be for you guys. So do you want to be all in on your best versions? That's really what it comes down to. I'd like to pray with you. So I'm just going to invite you guys to close your eyes, just bow your heads, just out of privacy for the person beside you, the person in front of you. And I'll ask every person to do this respectfully, please. And maybe some of you are sitting here and you're listening, and maybe you weren't really listening, but you were kind of listening. Maybe something caught your attention, or maybe Jesus is challenging you in some different areas. But wherever you're at, I want to give you an opportunity to say, hey, I want to take a step to be all in. And that step is going to look different for every single person. Maybe for some of you, that first step to be all in is to be able to say, hey, I've never believed in Jesus. I've never trusted Jesus. You talk about him a lot, John, but I've never actually trusted him and believed in him. And maybe that's your first all-in step. To be willing to say, you know what, Jesus, I want to invite you into my heart. I want to start this journey where I want to know more about myself. And I want to know that by getting to know you. Maybe that's your first step. But maybe some of you are here and you've been on the journey with Jesus, but there's some areas in your life that you've never surrendered, or you've partially surrendered to him. And maybe tonight Jesus is challenging you to say, hey, let me be all in with you on those areas. Be willing to pick up that cross and let me help you carry that. Let me help you deal with that. And maybe you put some family or friends or boyfriend or girlfriend above the place that Jesus needs to be in your life. Maybe that's your step. But whatever that step is for you individually, and out of respect for every single person, all I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you, are you all in? And if you're willing to be all in for whatever that is for you, whatever that looks like for you, I'm just going to invite you to slip your hand up. And all that means is just a physical act of surrender to say, Jesus, I'm all in. Jesus, I acknowledge this about you. I want this for me. So on the count of 3, if you're all in, whatever that looks like for you. No one else is looking around. 3, 2, 1. If you're all in, maybe it's your first step, or if you're all in a specific area in your life, I want to give this space. All right, thank you. You can put your hands down. Let me pray for you. Lord, I thank you, God, that you are good, and I thank you, God, that your word does not mess around with us, that it challenges us, it inspires us, it calls us up to the higher standard that we're living, to the highest standard that we could live. And I thank you, God, that you are kind to us, even though you're calling us out. And I pray, God, that as we've slipped, some of us have slipped our hands saying, like, I got some areas in my life that I haven't been all in with you, but I want to be. I pray right now, Lord, that your peace, your spirit would just connect with them. That you would start to whisper the areas, God, that they could work in, that you could work in with them. And I pray, God, for every person that put their hand up, God, that you would just gently lead them, Lord, to the place where they can surrender those areas to you, Lord. And I pray, God, that you would show them their purpose, God, that you would call them up, you would show them how valued they are, how loved they are, how incredibly called they are, Lord. And I pray, God, that as they start to trust you in some of these areas, God, that they've never trusted you before, and God, I pray, God, that you would start to call up passions, God. You would start to call up dreams and visions in their lives, Lord, that have maybe laying dormant in them right now, Lord. That you've only built uniquely in them, Lord. And right now, God, I pray, God, for every person in this room, Lord. I thank you for their lives. I thank you, God, for who they are. And I pray, God, that your word, Lord, will fall in their hearts, God, and that it would grow, and that you would challenge them, Lord, in different aspects of who they are, so that we can be more like you, Lord. That we can be called up to your standard, to your game, Lord. And I thank you, Jesus, that you are good to us. Holy Spirit, have your way.